Fire Pro Wrestling S6 Men's Scramble was released on the Saturn back in late 1996 and was developed by Human Entertainment. You know, the same guys behind the awesome Clock Tower games. Before we jump into the game itself, I'll warn you that this one takes quite a while to get the hang of. Each wrestler has what feels like 1,000 moves, so don't be discouraged if you can't figure out what's going on at first. The instructions are all in Japanese, and the menus, while certainly traversable, will also take some getting used to, as they're all in Japanese as well. Let's begin by saying that to many people out there, the Fire Pro Wrestling series was by far the best series of wrestling games ever developed. People swear by these games, and while I stopped watching professional wrestling when I was a youngster, I can certainly see the appeal. The game plays like an old school wrestling game as well, what with a classic isometric ring and beautiful hand-drawn sprites. The game is so much more technically advanced than the officially licensed wrestling games that the Saturn managed to get over in North America. It's really funny that just about all the characters that this game has are based off superstars from the old WWF, WCW, and ECW, which is absolutely awesome. There are classics such as Hulk Hogan, to The Undertaker, and Bret the Hitman Hart. You can customize your characters too, which is great if you want to call Hulk Hogan, well, you know, Hulk Hogan, as all of these characters are supposed to be generic, although they all have their classic finishing moves, which is absolutely hysterical. What you're seeing here is just the most basic default settings and characters. I just wanted to show you how the wrestling was more so than anything else. However, I wanted to mention all of this stuff so that if you decide to pick up the game, you realize that there's a lot of depth here and a lot of customization. There's also a bunch of unlockable wrestlers that you can unlock as you progress. Probably the best aspect of this particular game is the fact that the wrestling is so realistic. You start off with some very light moves and slowly start to tire out your opponent, and then you move on to more medium and finally heavy moves before you try to lock everything up with a finisher. All the while you have to keep your aggression high and your fatigue low, so you've got to take some breaks here and there. This comes into play with the multiplayer as well, when you have a bunch of friends over and you're all trying to best one another. That is the absolute best way to experience this game. I can't tell you how much fun it is to have 6 players going at it at the same time. There's a wide assortment of gameplay modes available, from a Royal Rumble to a single ECW-inspired match. There are tons and tons of options, a franchise mode, and more. You could literally be playing this game for months if you get into it. It does require over 300 blocks of memory to save all the data, so be aware of that before jumping in. I should also mention that you can easily find a translation guide online for all the different options and settings. In 2017, this game remains one of the very best old school wrestling games of all time, and it's highly sought after. You can still pick it up for a somewhat decent price if you spend enough time looking. And for hardcore wrestling fans, this one is an absolute no-brainer. It's also a beautiful game, the animations are great, the sprite work is outstanding, and just overall it comes together in a really nice package. It's a shame none of the classic music intros are present, but that's obvious why they left it out. They didn't want to get sued. The music is still good and catchy, however, you'll want to make a mix MP3 playlist of the original intro tunes for when your faves make their way to the ring. Overall, Fire Pro Wrestling S6 Men's Scramble is a phenomenal wrestling game. Grab a multi-tap and a bunch of friends and have a blast experiencing one of the best wrestling games ever made.
残り10秒